When I was a Pentecostal pastor, things like Advent, that's not a word. Now, Pentecost, celebrating Pentecost, well, hey, we're all about that. It's almost time for Pentecost. Easter, for sure. Christmas Sunday, yes. But ramping up to Christmas through Advent, that was not in any of the traditions that I was part of before I was a pastor. And in any of the churches that I was part of when I was an associate pastor, that wasn't something that we did. We didn't do Advent. But at some point, I jokingly call my wife the Christmas elf, because she just knows how to do Christmas. And she's always learning and trying to grasp more of how to do Christmas the best and the rightest way, the best way. And I do remember at some point along the timeline of us pastoring our church in California, where I was the lead pastor, that Mary Jo started wanting to do more things that look like Advent to a Catholic or to someone from a high church or more traditional church background. She wanted to introduce the Advent candle. She wanted to start thinking about the days leading up to Christmas and having more public readings and things like that. And for me, it seemed, I don't know, it seemed like maybe we were trying to add things we didn't need on one hand, but on the other, I could see how the people were responding to it, like it was adding meaning, it was adding a sense of depth to the season and the celebration that I think people really need, people really resonate with. And I could see that it was good. It was good for me too. Though I admit I didn't understand it. What's the purpose of this candle and what? I didn't know where it came from. Of course, now I know. It comes from our Catholic roots and from the Catholic Church. I don't think I could have come up with a preaching plan that works as well as the church's liturgical calendar. And part of that comes from, later in my pastoral tenure, I went to seminary. I became a pastor first, then I went to seminary. And my discipline was biblical theology, the story of Scripture. And I began to see that there are cycles in the biblical story that recur and recur and recur. They repeat themselves, kind of like the double helix in the DNA. They just keep happening over and over again. And this is how you can identify how God acts and what God is doing. Well, as I started looking at the Catholic Church's liturgical calendar, the readings from Scripture in all of these seasons of the church, the more I started saying, wait a minute, the church is trying to do with me what the Bible is trying to do with me in the way that it tells the story. We're starting somewhere. Well, where we're starting is with this beautiful, pristine creation. And then something bad happens, and then God starts working over time to bring about change, and then he restores the whole world through the death, burial, resurrection, and ascension of Jesus. And if you look at the liturgical calendar, it follows exactly that pattern of the biblical story. So you have, every Mass telling you the story of Scripture from start to finish. But then if you pull back from that and you look at the liturgical calendar, you see, we're doing the same thing here. We're telling the story of salvation over 365 days. And then we start over again, and we keep telling the story, and we keep telling the story. And for me, that's what liturgy, in one Mass does. But that's also what a liturgical calendar does. It's like your compass. It guides you through. It keeps telling you how God is saving you and how to live for God who is saving you. The year that I became a Foursquare pastor, which was about 8 years into my pastoral work, I met a fellow Foursquare pastor who was passing out a bunch of books with titles like Ancient Future Faith and The Ancient Ways. And these were books that these authors had discovered these ancient ideas like liturgies and the cycles of prayer and all of these things that, we do that on Thursday at the Catholic Church. But these were new discoveries, in the world that I was part of, the evangelical, Protestant, and Pentecostal world. And there was so much encouragement to go and find these ancient ways and integrate them into your worship experience. So now you see Pentecostal, Baptists, all different kinds of evangelical churches saying Advent or putting ashes on foreheads at Ash Wednesday, or just doing lots of things like slowing down and being more intentional about how they celebrate the Lord's Supper in their churches, even calling it the Eucharist now, adopting these terms and phrases and ways of trying, to get back to the ancient ways. And what I would say to myself, which I had to say to myself, hey, keep following those breadcrumbs. They are leading you to the bakery, to the source. They're taking you somewhere, and where they're taking you is upstream to the fountainhead, which is the Catholic Church, which gives birth and gives rise to all of these good things that now you think you've discovered them. You've fallen upon this ancient and lost treasure. But like I said, that was Thursday at the parish. The thing you're doing, that's every Wednesday night at 7. These are things that Catholics have been doing for centuries and centuries. It's a normal part of their lives. So I would just say to any Christian, any pastor, any church that has found these things, well, keep doing them, but ask a question as you're doing it. Where did this come from? Who was doing this first, and why? And what kind of Christians were these who came up with these ideas that have now become so valuable to me or to us? And I will tell you, for the most part, you're going to find the answer is that these are Catholics.